Thank you for joining in the first class of the Sunbrush installation and training program. Today we'll be running through what makes the Sunbrush a modular cleaning system and how the system can be adjusted depending on the site you're cleaning that day. Each of these sessions will have an accompanying PDF document which kind of gives an overview of what will be done in that session, which would be useful if you may be useful if you have it. Before we start talking about the Sunbrush, we ought to look at why we've designed a system that's modular. Of course, if you know anything about solar, it's quite obvious. All the sites are different. You've got different row spacings, different panel sizes and arrangements, different ground conditions, and different soiling types. This means as a contractor, you want a base unit that can kind of cover a wide range of these options. For example, these two sites here. On the left, you've got a fixed tilt 2P ground mount system. You need a 15-foot brush, and you've got lots of ground spacing. The right-hand side, you've got a single axis tracker, 1P, and not much space between the panels. So as a contractor, you want a unit that ideally you could take to both jobs and get the job done. You don't want to be stuck with only having a tractor unit for one type of site. You want options. So the Sunbrush modular system is made up out of five main parts. You've got the Sunbrush body, which is the headstock and the base unit. You've then got different changing arms, which are different brush length options. On those brush length options, we've got different bristle types. We've got two different bristle types which we can change between. We've then got water flow options and different pump systems. And lastly, all the accessories that can be bolted onto the unit. So this is the Sunbrush body here. It's on the right. You've got the section of the body which attaches onto the tractor, and on the left-hand side here, that's where the brush will bolt on, depending on what brush you need that day. And here we have the joystick, which is also here. This goes in the tractor cab, and that's how you operate the brush from the tractor. Those bodies, of course, can be attached onto a wide range of carrier vehicles. We'll run through this in detail in a separate video, but on the left, on an ag tractor, centre on a skid steer, and on the right a multi-hog. Now we actually have our own demonstrator multi-hog, so we'll quickly run outside and then have a look through the Sunbrush body on a multi-hog to give us some useful insight. So I'm now out here behind our warehouse in Henderson. Sun's shining, it's lovely, and here's the Sunbrush body mounted on our yellow multi-hog. So we haven't yet got the brush attached, but the body is on the tractor, and I'll give you a quick run around of the different components and how it attaches on. The first thing to notice with the Sunbrush on the tractor is it always must mount on the front end. You see here the multi-hog, the cab is at the front, but whether it's a tractor, a skid steer, a mini loader, whatever it is, the Sunbrush is mounted on the front as it's designed to go there on the front ahead of you in eyesight there on the tractor. So on this particular model, you will see the Sunbrush is mounted onto the front 3-point linkage of the multi-hog. You have the three mounting points that it mounts onto. This will be the same on an agricultural tractor, but for different carrier vehicles, we'll have slightly different mounting points, which we'll come onto in a future video. You'll also see, as we come around the other side, we have a joystick that's in the cab of the tractor. So this is the Sunbrush joystick. This is what controls the hydraulic functions on the machine. And this is what's operated from the cab to give you nice, easy operation. On the TrackFlex body, we also have a bending boom. So the boom halfway along will fold on these hydraulic cylinders, which gives you a bit more flexibility as the sites, especially on tracking sites. And it means you can actually clean in slightly narrower rows than if the boom was straight. And you will see on the end of this boom here, we have the pivot pin. This is where we attach onto the brush, depending on which brush we need. Now we've seen how the Sunbrush body mounts on the front of a tractor, we can look at the different brush options that we can put on the far end of that boom. Here is the three cutouts of three of the sizes, the 3 metre, 4.5 and 7.5. And of course you can put on the right size brush for the panels that you're cleaning that day. We always want 1 metre more of brush than the length of panel. So let's say you're cleaning a 2 metre panel, you want a 3 metre brush, or if you're cleaning two 2 metre panels, you want a 5 metre brush because you always want that excess either side. For example, here on this photo, you have a single panel and we have a 3-meter brush, and on the far side there we've got a 2-in-portrait panel and we have the 4.5-meter brush with a little bit of overlap either side. Now there are a few tweaks when you change from brush to brush. We change the float mechanism pressure slightly and change the cylinder. We'll come on to that more in the next video. Before we go and add this brush onto the tractor, I thought we'd run through some of the features which make it the way it is. Down the bottom here, we have the hydraulic brush motor. This is all controlled from the joystick, and it gives us bi-direction and also speed control. Built in to the square tube which holds the brush, we have extruded water lines. This means that we can screw nozzles directly into the aluminum tube, which means we don't need breakable plastic water hoses running the length of the brush. We also have different nozzle sizes, which gives us water adjustment and a better clean quality. At the center of the brush, we have the pivot point. This is the point at which we attach the Sunbrush body to the brush. So here we have the 10-foot brush mounted on the Sunbrush. The first thing to point out is that we have a central pivot point on the brush. It's not hydraulic, it's not controlled, it just freely pivots and freely sits at the angle that we set it at. Now the way that we change the angle is that we have a weight pack that sits inside this aluminum tube. Now we can send that weight pack up and down, which will change the sitting angle of the brush. Now I'll quickly run through that. I'll run through that now. This weight pack is adjusted using a 14mm driver that goes in the bottom of this weight pack. We can then shift the weight pack along a central screw. The brush will now sit at a flatter angle than it was before. And of course, vice versa, if we bring the weight closer back down the tube, the brush will get at a steeper angle naturally. This means we can adjust the angle of the brush without needing a mechanical fix. Because a mechanical fix has got no flex, and this will adjust naturally, but by shifting this weight pack, we can give it a natural sitting angle, which wants to be as close to the modules as possible. Next up, of course, we have different bristle options, which is the next way it can be modular. We've got two options, the 14-inch bristle and the 20-inch bristle. Now the 14-inch bristle is the standard option. It's the one that we use on the vast majority of sites. However, we have the 20-inch bristle for the next tracker. Now, both brushes have been tested for abrasion, and they have been certified by a wide range of manufacturers. Now, I will add, they've only been certified because of their combination with our float mechanism. So without the float mechanism, this bristle may well be too stiff, but because of the float mechanism and the way that they work together is how we've got the certifications. So if you go and put our bristle, which has been certified, on a system without a float mechanism, of course you haven't got the certifications. So they really do work hand in hand. Because we have the float mechanism, which we'll cover in the next video, we can have this bristle, and this bristle only works because of the float mechanism. So they really do work in conjunction. Now the other thing, inside of our bristle, we have a red wear marker. So we know when the brush wears down, we know when we can change our bristles. Now both the bristles, they slide over a central aluminum tube. The brushes come in half-meter sections, and yeah, they slide over that tube and are easily replaceable. It takes maybe 15 minutes to 30 minutes, depending on experience, but it's a relatively easy process. Yeah, the 350mm brush is the standard, but the reason we have the 20-inch is so that the brush can pass over the bearing hub assemblies on the next tracker system. We'll just watch this video and see how the brush passes over those bearing housing assemblies and without damaging the bristle. With our short bristle, we would make contact with those housings, whereas with the longer brush, we pass straight over. The brush is about double, the bristle is about double the length, and that's how that works. The next big question, of course, is water flow. The big question, wet versus dry. What parts of the world can we use wet cleaning? What part of the world can we use dry cleaning? And this is the question we get asked most frequently. Now, of course, there's some factors which affect this. The main one is the humidity of the region. If you're in a very dry region with low humidity, dry cleaning can often work for dust and in those desert regions. But if you're in a region with high humidity, most of America, Europe, we just need that wet cleaning, because that soiling is on the panel in a way that without water you will not get it off. It also matters, of course, about the soiling type. Dry cleaning for bird mess will never work. You will always need water. And of course, for snow, we don't need water because it'll freeze. It's always dry. So there's lots of different options, and the soiling type that you're cleaning in the region that you're cleaning will affect wet versus dry cleaning. And of course, we're here on the Sunbrush team to help you with that. Let us know what you're cleaning, and we'll be able to help you pick a system that works. The beautiful thing is that it is the same bristle for wet or dry. So our same brush is certified for both. And of course, often with water it will clean better, but the bristle has been tested dry, and will not affect those modules. Once we know whether we're going to be wet or dry, of course, if you're dry, you don't need a water pump. But for wet cleaning, we've got lots of different water pump options depending on the type of tractor you're using. If it's a standard agricultural tractor with a mechanical PTO, we can use a PTO water pump. That's a very high water flow. If we're using a hydraulic machine, like a skid steer or a wheeled loader, the hydraulic water pump is an upgrade that costs a little bit more, but it plumbs in directly with the joystick and works beautifully. If we haven't got either of those options, or the hydraulic capacities aren't quite right, we've always, of course, got a standard 12-volt electric water pump. This has a relatively low water flow, struggle to get more than 6 gallons a minute, but it's an option there for everybody. We also have nozzles, different sizes of nozzle that can be adjusted. We have different holes in these nozzles so that we can change up water flow as required. Of course, the bigger the nozzle, the more water flow we'll get out of that nozzle. And lastly, in the modular system, we've got all sorts of accessories that can be added onto the system. We've got water tank carriers, we've got brush and water extensions that are either 0.5 meter or 1 meter that slide into the end of that tube. Gives us a little bit of flexibility there. We've also got a hot water system. This is an inline water heater, which will heat up the water as it's going from your storage tank to the Sunbrush. And we've also got other monitoring systems like the water monitoring system. We can measure the water flow, the water temperature, and really record how much water we're using on site. Yeah, these accessories really enable you to tailor your brush to the tractor you've got and to the site you're cleaning. And there's lots more options that are here, but here are some of the main ones. So hopefully this session running through the cleaning system has helped you see how it can be adjusted and tweaked and can clean a wide range of sites, which is the whole point of the Sunbrush. But no, thank you very much for tuning in. And the next session will be running through the Washtronic float mechanism and how that looks after the panels and how it cleans very well. But no, I'll see you there, and have a good one. Bye-bye.